Welcome to another TellyCast, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of television production and all the incredible talent shaping what we watch. I'm Justin Crosby, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Tom Mudd and Adrian Carter from the renowned Canadian production company Shark Teeth Films. Known for their innovative storytelling and distinctive approach to factual and unscripted content, Shark Teeth Films has carved out a name for themselves in the industry. Tom and Adrian, welcome to the show.
We're great. Wow. Thanks for having us.
Not at all. You're fresh off the flight from Canada. You're in town.
Flew in this morning.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for making TellyCast your first stop on lots of meetings that you're going to do in London. So
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So you guys are having an amazing time. We're seeing lots of news in the trade press, etc., about Shark Teeth Films. So first of all, for those who don't know about Shark Teeth, tell us about the company.
Shark Teeth, we have been around close to 15 years. Is this our 15th year?
Yeah, in March will be 15 years.
Yeah, and we started, we initially worked in the U.S. market. We were our main customers in the Discovery portfolio, Food Network, Animal Planet. We did a couple series for them, Travel Channel. So very much pitching, creating, developing with the development teams at all those networks.
So mainly cable networks, right? Is that how you
100%
started?
cable, yeah.
U.S. cable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was fruitful for many years.
Yeah, many years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Tom, look, I mean, looking back at your journey, is there a particular project that changed things for you? And well, give us a run through about some of the shows that people might be familiar with.
Well, I mean, we had a lot of success on those U.S. cable networks with shows like Vegas Cakes on Food Network, and that ran for 3 seasons. Rugged Justice on Animal Planet, another 3 seasons of that. And those were great, and they were fun to make, and we had a blast, and they were doing well. Audiences loved them, and then it just kind of things started changing. Right. And that's kind of when we pivoted into more IP ownership and international endeavors with our content.
And what triggered that? What triggered that pivot? Because we're going to come and talk about that in a second. But your business from 15 years ago was kind of like a traditional production supplier to the American cable industry we talked about. Yeah. What triggered that pivot for you?
People weren't buying as much, and our shows weren't getting. Budgets went down.
Yeah.
Shows weren't getting renewed. Executives were getting shuffled around. There's just multiple things that contributed to just,
It used to be that when we would talk to the U.S. cable networks and we would talk about Canadian tax incentives, and they would say, don't worry about it right now. We don't need to include that as part of it. And then at some point, that switched to like, hey, tell us about those tax incentives you guys are talking about. And that was really how we went from, basically once we got onto Discovery Science with Secrets of the Ice, that was the conversation there. And that happened right at the time of, that was increasing and the buyers were decreasing and streaming was interrupting the whole thing.
COVID was mixed in there, and that kind of.
So we're talking about peak TV, essentially. Yeah. When these American execs would go, "Don't worry about tax credits. It's fine. You can make things cheaper. I'm not bothered. That's fine. We just want it anyway."
Yeah, makes things cheaper, get more episodes out of it if we tapped in them, but they just didn't want to. Yeah. They didn't want to go there at that point in time.
Extraordinary. Yeah. Okay, but now obviously the world has tilted on its axis
exactly.
In the content business.
And there was no one that understood it from those networks at that point in time. It didn't seem like there was anyone or departments that really grasped, the international tax credits and soft money that could, be tapped from other places besides Canada as well. Now, I mean, there's tons of people that are into it, obviously.
They would really only care about exploiting the U.S. market anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
It was never an international conversation.
No, because international didn't figure on a lot of U.S. networks' radar, did it?
I mean, I'm sure it probably still doesn't.
Yeah.
No. So let's talk about this new world we find ourselves in. Massively decreasing amount of commissioning within Factual and Unscripted as well. Budgets coming down for the content that is getting commissioned and acquired. What's the secret to surviving in this environment? Because you guys are thriving. I think you've got 3 series in production this year, right? Which is
it looks like 2025 is around 6 or 7 series in production.
wow.
So, but I think the secret to surviving is, we kind of look at the money that's available, the budget that we have, and what can we make within that budget that's really good. Not for a budget that's higher than that, and we try to hit something higher. We really work well within the constraints of what we have, and we try to milk it as much as we can. And we have our people that work on our shows work on all our shows. So we have we're not starting fresh with new people, introducing them to the content time and time again. People roll from one show to the next, and we're able to have a higher quality, more experienced subcontractors working on the show that can really help elevate the storytelling and the look and feel of it, and all the production values come together. So
yeah, it's a workflow that we're constantly honing as well. To keep it within those budget parameters, keep it within the schedules. But still, I mean, we're sticklers for quality and how things look still. I mean, we're still very hands-on with everything.
Yeah.
We just want it to look amazing, and we want people to really love our stuff and be entertained by it. And it's just like constant tweaking with our core team, and then then they kind of relay that.
And also, we don't have a big executive load.
Yeah.
It's Tom and I, and our executive in charge of production, and our showrunners, and we keep it fairly flat, our hierarchy.
Okay.
We don't have 15 VPs at the country.
Yeah,
Right.
And that helps with having some money in the bank.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
And also, I mean, it's gone from, our Intel collection our focus has moved from, LA and New York and cable companies down there, channels down there, to more of an international level where we're talking more with the distributors, and the distributors are telling us what's trending and what's hot and what people are liking, what people are continuing to buy. And we're just, Adrian and I sit down and figure out a show.
Yeah.
So would you say that you've got a particular house style? If you've got the same teams working across all your different productions, and you work in lots of different genres, don't you? Lots of engineering and science and etc. I mean, would you say you've got a house style? And if so, what would you say that is?
I mean, I'd say, we do have a house style, I would say, but it does vary from show to show. So each show does feel unique.
Yeah.
But we've always been really focused on visual effects, animation. Even when we were doing Animal Planet shows, Food Network shows, that was always part of it, because you always can elevate the production values. If you do that stuff well and it helps to tell the story, then it elevates it. So we use that in a bunch of different ways. We do a lot of 3D CGI, but we're also we have some 2D animation, a couple new shows that are coming. We're using 2D to tell a lot of the stories. So it's still a similar workflow, but
and also to reduce the amount of dramatic recreations, which we find aren't as popular anymore in terms of what our buyers are asking for these shows.
Yeah.
And to kind of replace that, and like Adrian was saying, just to up the production value with beautiful visual effects and CGI to help tell and propel a story.
Yeah, and the trick is to traditionally when you're making animation, you write your script, you storyboard, you cut an animatic, you eventually get to your rough cut that way. We don't have the time to do it that way, so we have to figure out how to do it in a way where we can use visual effects as coverage, and editors can pull visual effects and cut them in without specifying, I need this to happen from this frame to this frame based on this audio, because to do that way, you have to invert a lot in the production, and it makes it a lot more expensive to do it that way. If you need an approved script before you start animating something, it takes a while to get it that way. So we've really kind of figured out this way of being able to broadly specify what the animation needs will be in an episode and make that stuff before the editors are cutting.
It's kind of like a video game engine in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like you create the environment and the world, and you can move within it.
Okay.
And it suits a lot of the shows that we're currently doing.
So with your pivoting to being an internationally focused IP business, has that changed the stories that you're telling? And if so, you know, how are you, as a Canadian producer, how are you creating for, presuming mainly English language markets? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, mainly English language, but, you know, a lot of our shows lately are, you know, they're over 50, 60 countries now.
Right.
So they're
Getting
dubbed and translated, and they're finding an audience in non-English speaking areas, which is great.
Yeah, like we're always just trying to provide, and you know, if you're just on U.S. air, you can't necessarily, you know, they're a lot more inward looking, right? So they want to hear USA stories, whereas when we're developing for a global audience, everyone wants the maximum variety of stories, which is great because we want the maximum variety of stories. We want to tell as many stories as we can. So it opens it up in a good way because there's obviously a lot of stuff happening.
It's beneficial
all around the
to
world.
what we do.
And
for these sort of
audiences
shows.
are much more receptive in the
Yes.
international market than the domestic US.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally.
I mean, we went from making shows about rednecks, you know, back in the day. That's a lot of, I mean, we literally had a show called High Tech Rednecks that we did for Discovery Canada, which was a fun, great show. But I mean, that was a trend back then.
Yeah, it was
so
fun.
much fun going around in South
stuff
Texas
up.
and blowing things up, and with these dudes that are making these $1 million vehicles for hunters on their 1,000-acre ranches in South Texas. Ridiculous. And it was kind of a comedy in a way that we did. But, you know, we've gone from that sort of television to, you know, and real, I guess, character-focused TV to more of this documentary series that, you know, feature history and true crime and engineering and a lot of expert-led, and so it's changed that way.
Talk us through your most popular franchises then. Give us a bit of a rundown of your 3 or 4 most successul franchises.
Well, lately, I mean, we started our pivot show, which really was Secrets in the Ice. We are just in post on season 4 now, and I guess it'll be coming out all over the place at some point next year. So that was a big pivot, and that was, you know, was a show that kind of we created at the start of COVID when we couldn't travel anywhere and do any of that sort of stuff, and we're like, okay, we need something. So we came up with this show where we would able to utilize, you know, studio sort of setups for interviews and a lot of CGI and visual effects and just great storytelling and great research. And
there's a practical, I mean, if you discover something that's melted out of the ice, you've taken it from there and taken it somewhere. So we realized on that show, when it started, there was a question of, okay, how are we going to fly to all these places and shoot these artifacts in situ? But in reality, they weren't there anymore. The scientists had taken them anyway. So we started just organically, you know, getting the footage from scientists, getting the footage from the people researching the site. And that kind of then became a key part of the model was we don't need to travel to those places. It's to acquire those images doesn't require that amount of investment.
Yeah.
It's easier to, and more, it feels more authentic to get that footage shot by a non-professional.
right from the scientist who's
from the
on the
people-
glacier in
Yeah,
the middle
yeah.
So
of
it's once they found an object. I mean, give us some examples of what sort of objects have been found.
I mean, there's a lot of mummies.
a lot of frozen mummies.
Yeah.
a lot of
There's a
frozen
lot of
mummies.
mammoths and things like mammoths. Are we talking
Man,
about?
lots of
Yeah.
it. Siberia is a great place for
Yeah.
us.
Right.
Where there are a lot of stories that have come out of Siberia.
Yeah.
Mummies, mammoths.
The Siberian Times is our favorite publication.
Yeah. What else? I mean, there's a lot of, planes, World War II planes that have gone down, and
of
you know all
course.
that sort of stuff. There's
Okay.
just tons of stories. I mean, we do I mean, these are usually 10 episodes seasons, hour longs. We pack 4 stories into each episode. So a season is 40 stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we've got a clip, I think, of Secrets in the Ice. Let's take a look.
A mysterious frozen lake filled with the bones of hundreds of people.
Some even still have flesh attached to them. This place really gives you the feeling that something unsettling happened here.
An aviation graveyard buried 300 feet beneath the ice.
There were no signs of a mechanical error, so there were still no answers to what actually happened to these planes.
And 3 mummies suspended in the Italian Alps.
People don't just end up hanging upside down in a glacier unless something terrible happened to them.
These are the strangest mysteries trapped in the coldest places. Lost relics, forgotten treasures, dark secrets, locked in their icy tombs for ages. But now, as ice melts around the world, their stories will finally be exposed.
So tell us about some of your other shows then. Well, maybe give us 2 or 3 other successful shows from Shark Teeth Film.
So leading from Secrets in the Ice, and then with Discovery Science Channel, we did Secrets in the Jungle, which was an excellent show, but coincided with the decline of Discovery Science. That one kind of got lost in the shuffle for a little bit there.
Yeah.
But it's a great show. We do Secrets in the Sand. We're just about to start season 2 of that. We did Secrets of Big Data.
Secrets of Big Data.
And then so that's our Secrets universe. But we've moved beyond that now. We're doing...
Secrets in the Dark, which we start production on.
Yeah.
Well, we just recently started production on Secrets in the Dark, which is another chapter to the franchise, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, those are things that are buried, hidden, or cursed.
Yeah, so it's got a little bit of a darker, spookier tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which will be a good one.
Yeah, and then we did Mysterious Islands we did that with our partner Cineflix, and that was picked up by National Geographic globally. So that'll be on National Geographic. It's on U.S. cable right now. It'll be on Disney+. National Geographic everywhere but Canada.
Right.
Because we get those Canadian tax credits.
Yeah, we made the deals there. But that'll be rolling out early 2025.
Yeah.
It's already airing in the States, so.
Another fun show called Building Bad, about engineers that have made things for crime, use their ingenuity for crime as opposed to helping society. But, that's...
Criminal masterminds and the...
It's like celebrating a good idea.
Okay.
If we're not judging the idea, sometimes,
So we're talking about narcotic submarines.
Yeah,
narco
exactly.
subs,
Yeah.
Colombian narco subs, and that's just a perfect
Tunneling
example.
under a bank. There's a lot of very inventive bank robbery schemes. There's a lot of inventive moonshine. Smuggling is you have to put your brain to work to smuggle.
And this is obviously the Breaking Bad sort of
It is,
idea of science, but not necessary for, or more for nefarious means.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we're like, again, this is, just intel we collect and what people want. We're just like, okay, well, true crime's working, and so are these engineering sort of style of shows and history, and kind of just mashed it together and created Building Bad, and it's... fingers crossed, people like it.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a great one. Yeah. And then we're doing another series called Discovered by Disaster. So that's about artifacts and places and things that were revealed in the wake of natural or man-made disasters.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and a lot of these ideas come from, we're constantly filtering the universe of stories that come in, and all our researchers are doing that. So we get these stories, sometimes it fits neatly in Secrets in the Ice or in Secrets in the Jungle or Building Bad. Then we start to notice, there's all these stories building up here that don't fit in one of those shows.
Okay.
So they tend to be, then we think, okay, well, we've got 40 stories here. What is the show that fits
We've
those
got a new
stories?
franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
How do we spin this? What's the organizing
Yeah.
principle for this show? And that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah,
You know?
we try to give them all their own feel and
Yeah, definitely.
perspective.
Definitely. We were, at this point in time, we're very proud to say that none of our stories have crossed into another
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So we try to keep them very unique.
We never want to work against ourselves.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. So, so you're obviously working with international partners, which is you mentioned Cineflix earlier on. There's lots
Yeah.
of. I know you're also working with Banijay, I think, in some cases.
Yep,
and
we have.
Bo Rocker.
Bo Rockers are a big
Yeah.
partner of ours.
Off the Fence we've worked with in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Canadian tax credit. I mean, give us a sense of what difference a Canadian tax credit means for an international production, typically.
Well, it's about 45%.
Yeah, I mean, if you can max it out, we can,
Yeah.
35 to 45%. And especially, I mean, we just make sure we use, just to max it out, all Canadians, all Ontario residents. We shoot everything in the country.
We have a really good tax credit expert
Yeah.
who really helped us capitalize on what we're available to get and how we get it and how we most efficiently get it. And that's been really helpful.
They're an important member of staff.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, it's
A lot of
great.
lectures.
A lot of lectures.
Giving
but
us a lot of lectures.
if you're watching, Joe.
Yeah.
So well, you as I say, you've got lots of international partners, lots of broadcasters around the world. Obviously, finding your content affordable and engaging,
Exactly.
and obviously you've got a very successful franchise that's
deliver
built out
quickly,
like
too.
that. Sorry.
We deliver quickly too.
Yeah, you deliver quickly
Yeah.
as well because you've got that sort of almost factory mentality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can turn these shows around from moment they're financed to delivery in 7-8 months.
So being an IP business now and not work for hire, you're retaining the rights to all of this content. The industry is changing very much more to direct to consumer in many cases. YouTube is now the most watched streaming platform. Surely, and we see Factual content doing very, very well and building communities.
Yeah, it's great to see that.
Surely that's the next step for you guys, to create your own channels around the brands that you've already created and have been successful and built up audiences. Tell us about that. Is that the next step for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've started, I guess, kind of the first foray into that is fast channels, where, those rights are being sought after now. And, the money's not quite there. You're not going to fully finance a show that way yet. But as soon as you can, I think those things become even more viable. And YouTube, similar thing. If we can figure out our model to exploit it in the same way we do with license fees,
We're on
it
it.
would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the future. And
Yeah.
it's not the future, it's now.
I mean,
Yes.
I spend
Yeah,
most
no.
of my day watching stuff on YouTube
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean-
so
Yeah.
seeing the same ads over and over again.
Yeah.
But at least they're playing ads.
Yeah.
Somebody's making money.
Yeah. So finally, how about the future then for Shark Teeth? Obviously, that's going to be a key element of it when it comes to creating digital-first content or certainly exploiting your library that you already have. What about new productions? What's in the pipeline? What's the Shark Teeth factory back in Canada working on right now?
We got a couple shows. Like I mentioned, we just started production on Secrets in the Dark. And we have another one called Vanished History that we started last month, which is a show about things in history that have disappeared, vanished. We're trying to give it a very sort of mystery sort of spin
Yeah.
to it.
Like think the Amber Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, it's
Yeah.
almost like the eighth wonder of the world, Tower
Yeah.
of Babel, that sort
Exactly.
of idea.
Exactly.
things
It's
like
in the
that.
history books, but it's not around anymore. And so
Yeah.
what happened to that thing?
Right.
What does it look like? Where is it?
Yeah, people, places, and things. You know, it's just all will cover the gamut. Multiple stories per episode. Our formats, like I mentioned, tend to be 4 stories per episode, per 1 hour episode. Usually 10 in a season. And so we're excited about those 2 shows. We have Secrets in the Sand second season going into production next month, which is great because that was a show that we weren't sure was gonna get renewed and happen. So there were some pivots with that show, and we managed to get a second season going, or we will next month. So that's really exciting. We're developing some really cool stuff in the true crime space.
Yeah, we're trying to just we do really well in that history mystery genre, and we've found some great buyers there, and they like our shows a lot. But we never want to compete against ourselves, and so we're always trying to push into genres that we're not necessarily in yet. So Building Bad was kind of the first push towards true crime stuff. We've developed a ton of true crime things,
Right.
but we're trying to put them into our
way of doing it.
it.
Okay.
So we've got a couple good ones coming that way, and it's just maybe it's a more co-viewing take on true crime, or even male skewing. Okay. But that's there's a lot of room there, and obviously the true crime is the biggest genre.
Yeah, well, I mean, coming out of MIPCOM, we spoke to Guy Bisson from Ampere Analysis, and he was, true crime strong as ever, if not more so now. So,
all right, good. We're not missing the boat then.
No, you're moving into the right space, I think.
It's hard. It's so picked over. It's. I mean, we've pitched so many shows. So many of them are so depressing to develop.
Yeah.
But you have to find the spot.
Yeah, I get so.
Content that speaks to you.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's a lot of depraved things when you're looking at true crime.
Yeah, well, that's the other
like
thing.
My search history sometimes.
Obviously, I've thought about that. We had Howie from Mindzone on the show a few weeks ago, just talking about the mental health aspects of creating true crime content or blue light content.
Yeah.
What's it like for the production team? What's it like for contributors in reality shows, but focusing on true crime, I mean, it's dealing with that sort of content on a regular basis.
And you're evaluating murders. You're looking up stories. Oh, that murder is boring. It's solved too quickly. It's sad.
It's even even just to think murder. You're just talking about entertainment. But it was an actual murder, right?
Person,
you lose context of that.
No, totally.
But
the stuff that bothers me the most is like anything relating to kids. And kids getting murdered, and it's just I can see how that can
we developed one with people. Lifetime that was God, it made me depressed for months.
That was a depressing development process.
Well, you guys have created such a successful franchise. You can do, you can only do the things that you want to do now, which is
knock on wood.
Which is
we're always you can never get too comfortable. We're always. I mean, Adrian and I are always just freaking out. It's like, what's next?
The rug pull is always waiting.
As producers and business owners, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and we just want to make sure that things are consistent, not only for us, but for our team and the people that work on our shows, that everyone's,
we like our people to be, like I was saying before, we want the same people working on all the shows, because there's no retraining, there's no, people can excel in that format. So
it makes it super efficient, right?
It does,
and everybody knows what they're delivering. Tom, Adrian, thank you so much for joining me on TellyCast.
It's
been
Justin.
Great to meet you, and good luck in London this week with all those pitch meetings.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be hearing more and more about new shows that come out on the back of that. So all the best, and thanks for being on TellyCast.
Thank
Justin.
you.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. For content industry videos featuring the movers and shakers of the international TV industry, just click the link in the episode description or search TellyCast TV on YouTube. TellyCast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. We'll be back again next week for another show. Until then, stay safe.